Hey everyone, John Chow here from johnchow.com, and today I am with Stephen Cole from the OC, Orange County Bitcoin Meetup Network Group. And as you know, I attended one of his meetup recently, had a great time, learned a lot, so I figure I should call him up and get him to talk about Bitcoin, because judging by your feedback, you guys are interested in it. So Stephen, why don't you tell us, begin by how you first got into Bitcoining and what piqued your interest and yeah.
Sure. What's my Bitcoin origin story?
Yeah, exactly.
So my background is in web technology. I lived in Silicon Valley for the better part of a decade working at internet tech startups. So I was always kind of in touch with emerging technology. Bitcoiner since about 2013. So heard about it the first time 2013, started investing in it and researching it very seriously around 2014 or so. Discovered it just by virtue of having friends who had been exposed to it, and some of the most smart people in my life just would not stop talking about this Bitcoin thing. And so eventually I became fascinated with it and started doing some reading and tumbled down the rabbit hole.
All right, so around those time, what was Bitcoin trading for?
Yeah, let's see. So we're recording this, and it's about $10,000 today. Back then, 2013, 2014, I think I started dabbling in it when it was about $800, but it was actually on the way down. So it had peaked recently at about $1,200, and I started getting in around $800, and then it sort of crashed to, let's say, $150, $200.
Okay.
And then kind of boringly ranged there for the better part of that year.
All right, so I mean, looking at it now, great investment on your part,
Totally.
right? But I can imagine as an investor, I know this, when you were buying at 800 something, and then you see it go down to 150, what was going through your mind at that time though? It looks great now, but back then, what was going through your mind?
Absolutely. Did I make a huge mistake is obviously the first thought. I think in hindsight, it was pretty fortunate because it was a very early test of faith in this. So you invest in something, and I invested kind of a small amount, relatively speaking. And then it forces you to challenge your assumptions and do some research and think, okay, am I going to lose money on this? Is this just going to fail? Or is there really something to this, and should I keep investing? And the more that I read, the more that I learned about not only the computer science and kind of technology aspects of Bitcoin, but also the economics and finance, the more confident that I became long term. And so just kind of kept gradually accumulating and learning more about Bitcoin over the years.
Okay, so for my readers who are brand new to Bitcoin, perhaps you can explain exactly what is a Bitcoin.
I'd be happy to. And it's funny how difficult Bitcoin can be to get your head around, even if you're very technical or maybe you're experienced in finance or economics, because it's this interesting multidisciplinary topic. So in order to really understand how transformative it might be, sometimes it requires this understanding of a lot of different areas that one person may not typically have, and it takes a lot of research to get. But really, Bitcoin's strength is kind of as money, in my mind. So most people shrug it off, and I was guilty of this too initially, as just another payment system, right? Mm-hmm. So when you think about paying for things at restaurants, you go up to the cash register, and you might see all these stickers for Visa, Venmo, MasterCard, Square. And so you kind of think about money as a way to pay for things, to get payment from point A to point B. Bitcoin is really more than that. A lot of people shrug it off the first time thinking it's just payments, but really Bitcoin is a new type of money entirely. Mm-hmm. So not only is it this network that you can transact on and send from, but it's new units of money.
Okay, but when I have cash in my wallet, that cash, well, it's backed by the full taxing power of the United States government.
It is.
It used to be backed by gold, but now it's taxed by the taxing power of the U.S. government. But so what is backing Bitcoin?
Nothing is backing Bitcoin. It is priced by the free market and whatever individuals are willing to pay for it. So that I think turns a lot of people off. Reflexively, mm-hmm. You're kind of skeptical of holding something that isn't backed in the ways that we're familiar with things being backed. But like you said, the dollar is no longer backed in gold. No. It used to be. In 1971, that changed. So only thing backing the dollar now is kind of the full faith and credit of the United States government, mm-hmm. and military and all that. Bitcoin's rise really happened organically. So back in 2010, May of 2010 was the first time that a Bitcoin transaction was used to buy physical objects. So someone paid 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 Papa John's pizzas.
10,000, and so that's a one really expensive pizza.
Yes, yes, and at the time, roughly $41 for that transaction, I think, give or take. And by today's terms, that's like millions of dollars for those two
It's
pizzas.
a $100 million pizza.
Yeah, so Bitcoin has appreciated very rapidly in value since then, but it's all just been free market driven.
Yeah, what I find unique about that is I'm able to look at Bitcoin's public ledger and see all these transactions, and I guess what creates the trust in me to look at it, because I know that these transactions cannot be changed.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So it cannot be reversed, it cannot be changed. So, and the map behind it, well, it's either true or false, right? So,
Absolutely. It's
if
immutable.
you can't, if you're not backed by the taxing power of a government, I guess you're basically backed by mathematics.
Yeah, and I think there are really two important aspects to kind of zoom in on there. First is the immutability aspect that you mentioned. So when a Bitcoin transaction occurs, given enough time, there's this mechanism called proof of work. And it can get kind of technical, but without getting too deeply into it, what it really means is that these people around the world on the Bitcoin network who are operating it are spending real money and resources on electricity to kind of have skin in the game and verify that these transactions occurred. And so in order for someone to try to rewrite history or censor a transaction, they would have to expend real resources on that. And so the longer that a transaction, the more time that passes after a transaction has occurred, the more expensive it becomes to try to rewrite that history and undo, which is pretty interesting. So you get some finality in that. And then the second aspect is Bitcoin's scarcity, and that is fascinating. So a lot of people have heard the word Bitcoin and maybe even know that it's a new contender as a type of money. But what not many people know is that Bitcoin is limited. And in my opinion, that was the really huge breakthrough of the creation of Bitcoin. So in 2009, when it was invented, it was the first time that we had had something that was digital that was also scarce, it was also limited. So we've existed in this world for all of the decades that the internet has been around of digital abundance. If I have a file on my phone, if I have a picture on my phone or an MP3 or some kind of file, it's trivial to copy that or to send it to you or to send it to anyone. And so we're not used to this idea that there could be something digital that's also limited. And I think that's what takes a while for people to grok about Bitcoin. But once they do, it's pretty powerful. There's only 21 million Bitcoin that will ever exist.
21 million coin.
And no more can
And
ever
when
be
will the
created.
last coin be mined?
Yeah, and so there's a predictable schedule that these new coins are issued at. So far, roughly 18 of those 21 million coins have been mined and are in theory in circulation. The last sliver of Bitcoin will not be found for another 100 years or so. The year 2140, roughly, is when that's estimated to happen.
After my lifetime, I guess.
Yeah, but there's kind of this asymptotic curve to it. So there's a lot, like the rate of creation is very high initially in terms of bringing new Bitcoin into existence, but then it levels off. There's this halving mechanism that occurs every 4 years in Bitcoin. So every 4 years, the number of Bitcoin being created get cut in half.
Slows down.
Yeah, so as we're having this conversation here in 2019, the rate of creation of Bitcoin is roughly 6.25 per, or 6.5 Bitcoin every 10 minutes or so.
Okay.
But in May of next year, May 2020, that's going to get cut in half.
It's cut in half.
Yeah, and then 4 years
so
after that, it's cut
supply
in
and
half.
demand mechanism
Exactly.
kicking in. Cool. All right. So how does someone who has no experience in any of this stuff, if they want to buy a Bitcoin, what is the easiest way for them to go about doing it?
Yeah, and that's something that's really important for new people to understand is it is kind of the Wild West and there's a lot of scams out there.
Oh, yeah.
So,
and I guess I should put a disclaimer out here that we're not offering any investment advice. All right,
Totally.
so this is we're just talking about Bitcoins. If you wish to invest in it, seek your own personal professional advisor, because we're not advisors, just a Bitcoin enthusiast. I'm just interviewing Bitcoin enthusiasts. So these are high risk investment basically.
absolutely, yeah. People should consider it, a risk asset at this point, and only invest what you're comfortable losing. But
Exactly.
I think the potential upside if Bitcoin were to work is compelling enough that it may make sense for some
All right.
small
So for those
allocation
people
of a
who
portfolio.
do have some risk capital to invest, and they want to diversify a small part of the portfolio to Bitcoin, what's the easiest way to acquire some?
There's a number of different companies. So you'll want to seek out effectively an exchange. So a company that will take your dollars or whatever your local currency is and give you Bitcoin in return. And in the US, my recommended way to buy is an app called Cash App. So that's made by the public company Square. And they are a Bitcoin-focused company. So unlike a lot of other companies, they don't offer a ton of different digital currencies. They're very focused on Bitcoin specifically and just building a quality experience on top of that. So it's pretty easy to install that app on your iPhone, Android phone, link up a bank account, debit card, and then buy some Bitcoin.
So easy. Basically, just download the app, link it to your bank account, buy some Bitcoin.
Yes, and importantly, so the price of Bitcoin is about $10,000 now, but one important thing to note is that you do not need to buy an entire Bitcoin to start. So I think a lot of people get turned away because they think of it like a stock, right? Where there's this,
buy one share.
There's this barrier to entry. If I don't have $800, I can't buy a share of Amazon or whatever it is. But with Bitcoin, you can buy a small fraction. So each Bitcoin is highly divisible. So you can transact in even 1/100 millionth of a Bitcoin. Very small, less than a penny, effectively.
Less than a penny.
And that's actually nicknamed a Satoshi after the inventor of Bitcoin. That smallest unit of Bitcoin is called a Satoshi.
So 100 million Satoshi equals 1 Bitcoin.
Yes. And sats for short. So you can stack some sats is kind of a catchphrase that's caught on in the Bitcoin community. So you can use Cash App and you can buy whatever fraction of Bitcoin or number of sats you're comfortable with and just gradually stack some sats over time if you think it would be a good investment.
Okay, that sounds great. And lastly, you run, and you're one of the co-founder and co-organizers of the Orange County Bitcoin Meetup Group. So tell us about the Meetup Group, how often you meet, and what you guys do there.
That's right. Yeah, we're pretty excited about it. We've got a lot of positive momentum going. So it's relatively new. We've only had 3 events so far. Just established a few months ago, but it was born out of a desire to really have a Bitcoin-focused event here in Orange County. So there were a lot of meetups that were talking about cryptocurrency more broadly and kind of enterprise blockchain technology, which I tend to be a little bit more skeptical of in general. I think blockchain and crypto tend to be overhyped, and Bitcoin specifically tends to be a little bit underhyped. So I wanted to form a group that was just Bitcoiners who wanted to talk and learn and share information about Bitcoin. So we've got the OC Bitcoin Network, and we meet typically in Irvine or Anaheim, usually once a month, and we just released the rest of our 2019 calendar this week. So we've got some exciting events coming up.
Awesome. All right, and I have the link to the Meetup Group below this video. So if you're in the Orange County area and you want to find out more about Bitcoin and meet other people who have an interest in Bitcoin, when's our next meetup?
Let's see, the next meetup is going to be this month, September 19th.
There you go.
Yep. And then another one after that on October 24th. So we'll be talking at the next one about Bitcoin full nodes, kind of going into detail on one component of the Bitcoin network, explaining what it is, why it matters, why it's important. So anyone who wants to, even if you're brand new to Bitcoin and you just want to understand how this works and chat with some good Bitcoiners, then we encourage you to come out. We'd love to have you.
All right, awesome. All right, Stephen, great to meet you.
Thank you for
taking the time to talk to us and to my group. All right, so everyone else there, I hope you find value in this video. If you do, give it a like, give it a thumbs up. And if you're in the Orange County area, join us for the Orange County Bitcoin Network Meetup Group. See you guys next time.